Um, Welcome to this session for those of you who are interested in women's and gender studies. Welcome to Mary Washington. I'm Professor Gupta. I direct the Women's and Gender Studies program. And I have with me Josephine, who is a senior in the program. And so we are going to try to answer some of your questions. We'll start with a little bit of an introduction. We'll talk a bit about the program and some really exciting changes that we anticipate. And then after I make the presentation, we are both here for your questions. And one of you actually asked the question that I'm going to be addressing, which is someone actually asked in the section on questions, does the program include study of sexuality? And I'm happy to say that from this fall, the program is actually formally renamed. It always addressed gender, women, gender, and sexuality. From this fall, it's actually going to be formally called Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies. So, rest assured, your concerns were heard even before you made them clear to us. We actually, a lot of our current students have the same concern, and we heard from a number of them, and so we decided to change the name, and it just went through. So let me begin by just giving you an overview of the program, and I will try to keep it as short as I can, and then we can go from there. Let me. All right. Okay, I hope all of you can see this. And as you can see, the header is still Women's and Gender Studies because we formally changed the name in the fall, but the focus on gender and sexualities, emphasis on diverse perspectives of femininity, masculinity, non-binary identities in the society. I don't want to kind of read through stuff, but I want to tell you what we are really proud of and what this program is, what this program's distinctiveness is. So we have a very large affiliated faculty. Why does that matter to you as a student? First of all, it enhances the interdisciplinarity of the program, which means that if you're interested in women's and gender studies, you can be interested in questions of policy. You can be interested in questions of literature. You can be interested in questions around history. You can be interested in questions around art. And it doesn't matter what your approach to the study of women's gender and sexuality issues are. We have faculty that are affiliated to the program that both offer courses and are ready to mentor you. So those are the strengths, I think, of the program. So that is basically the second part of the advantage of having a very large affiliated faculty. In fact, I haven't seen in the state of Virginia such a large affiliated faculty in a department or a program for women's and gender studies. We have very flexible coursework. So as I said, if you have interest in different fields, we actually encourage you and require that you take classes in different departments that offer related courses. And it also gives you an opportunity to pursue a double major. And Josephine can talk a little bit to this whole idea of, what does it mean to take classes with different departments, different professors, and so on. One of the things that I like to talk about, and I think all of you will get this question at some point, not only from your family and friends outside of the university, but also inside the university. What are you studying exactly? And how are you going to get a job? And this is where I'll talk a little bit about it afterwards, but this is where we like to say that we train our students in all transferable skills that you're going to find and your future employers and graduate school departments are going to find extremely valuable. So analytical, speaking, writing, research skills, these are all things that the major covers. And the added bonus is that we are probably, one of the most explicit majors that focuses on doing good, in the sense that this kind of activism is not such an explicit part of most majors, but in women's and gender and sexuality studies, it is good. There is a lot of things that our students do that are associated with doing good, in terms of community engagement and in terms of working in different fields. For example, one of my students this semester is working for a women's shelter. Another one is working in a community organization where she brings food to people who are in need. A number of my students in my class are helping refugee children with their homework, and they're doing other things that allow them to be part of the larger community. And finally, we are really distinctive in that we usually bring some of the most frequent visitors on campus, meaning that we are, as a program, every fall and spring, we bring 3 brown bag lecture speakers, lunchtime speakers, and in addition, we have other lecturers who come and visit from outside the university, from a diverse set of areas, some from, say, other universities, other academics, but a lot of them from NGOs or from government agencies or from nonprofits that work on women's advocacy issues. And they all, why is it, also law firms and others, why is that important? Beyond hearing about your areas of interest from people other than your professors, it allows you to make valuable networking opportunities. So one of my students went to one of these brown bag lectures, spoke to the speaker, and after that, she sent her resume and got an internship that spring. This was last spring I'm talking about. She graduated. She's now applying for grad school. She has applied to, I think, 8 or 10 schools at the last count. She's already gotten acceptance at 7 of them. The others haven't made their decisions yet, and she's gotten scholarships. So, there's so much of opportunity through these kinds of speakers visits and whatnot that we really like to highlight this part. And not, this is something that we do a lot in Mary Washington in any case, but definitely women's and gender studies, or as we're going to call it, women's gender and sexuality studies, does it more often than most. So a little bit about the structure. It's 33 credits. I won't go into the details because this is not going to stick with you beyond this evening. You're welcome to, reach out to me and ask me more questions, but roughly, we ask for 2 foundation courses, 1 methods course, 6 electives, and 2 capstones, which from the fall is going to actually be reduced to 1 capstone, and we are increasing the foundations course to 3. So the overall credits remain the same. So what can I do? We were talking about this before. What can you do with, and if you go to our website, you'll see that we have some profiles of past students. We have a profile of a current student. People work in all kinds of fields, and we have had clergy. We've had people go into broadcast journalism. We have had people go into the healthcare field, all kinds of areas. So this is just a sampling of the areas that people have gone, our alumni have gone into. And remember, this is a 10-year-old program. So it's, as programs go, it's probably one of the newest at Mary Washington. And in this short period of time, our students have done such a lot of different things, such a lot of interesting things. Um, they've gone on to Peace Corps. They have gone into legal profession. I mean, you name it, pretty much anything that you can think of. So again, something similar. These are actual descriptions of students currently engaged in these specific fields. And this is, again, some outline of some of our students, just to kind of give you a sense of who they are, where they are, and so on. So I'll end with my name and address and phone number. I would prefer that you email me than use the phone number, especially now that we are working remotely a lot of the time. But please do visit our website. Josephine is responsible for updating it. She's going to keep working on updating and putting more profiles there and other information. You'll also see that this spring we have a few events. This past fall and spring we have limited our events because of Zoom fatigue, because students are really exhausted with being on Zoom all day. But if you go back a couple of years, you'll see that we have these 3 brown bag lunches, brown bag discussions, as well as other events every year. So just wanted to put that out there. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen at this point. I don't want to be the one talking the whole time. And I'll invite Josephine to talk a little bit, and then open it up to all of you to ask questions.
So, hi guys, I'm Josephine. I'm a senior in the program this year. And I really do, I think the most important thing or the biggest takeaway that I've taken from being a student in the Women and Genders and Sexuality department is definitely the interdisciplinary of the major. I've really taken classes probably in almost every department, um, probably, probably. And I feel very lucky to be able to be in this position because although I haven't like specifically defined where I want my career to go or where my future is taking me, I feel very extremely confident about the skills that I've learned in different classes. I feel like I've learned to do citations in 3 different styles, which is actually pretty rare. Like, and I didn't even know that. I thought that was something normal. I feel like the math courses that were required of the university were just enough to challenge me, but enough to help me focus on my major and what was more important to sort of the trajectory of graduation. I also think that speaking of the trajectory of graduation, I am a transfer student. So I transferred here in the fall of 2019. And so this is like my 3rd semester at UMW, and I'm already a senior. And um, it's gone very quickly and it's been very exciting and it's been very fun. But I also think that that has been such a great part about being in the major is that I was really able to select every class that I wanted to take at that point. And the biggest factors in me not being able to choose a course or deciding to drop a course were really that I was taking too many, I had signed up for too many credits. And so that's another thing. Like the classes, even without taking them or even signing up for them, they always look so exciting. And I honestly have a hard time choosing which classes that I'll be taking each semester. But I would say that the biggest thing for sure is the amount of interdisciplinary like skills that I've gained and the different sorts of departments that I've been able to take classes in, definitely.
All right, we've bombarded you with quite a lot of information. Would you like to tell us just a couple of things about yourselves? Just introduce yourself and say, or you could even write something in chat if you're not comfortable, speaking out. That's fine too. Anybody wants to go first?
Or if you guys have any questions about the program or about Life at Mary Washington, we are more than happy to answer those for you.
Absolutely. So do you have questions about what it would be like when you first start school? Like the first year? What do the foundation classes cover? Okay, so the foundation classes, in the fall, there are going to be 3 of them. The first one is, they're not sequential, but I'm just going to say the first one because WGST 101 is probably the class that all our majors take before they take anything else. In fact, that is what draws them into the major if they haven't thought about it before. I know Josephine is nodding because she came to the major that way. So that is Introduction to Women's Studies. And then WGST 102 is Perspectives on Sexuality. And Philosophy 220, which is the third foundation course students take, that one focuses on feminism. That's not necessarily always taught in the philosophy department. It used to be taught in the philosophy department, but we are changing our curriculum just a little bit. So it would be there's going to be a course on feminism that's going to be a foundation course, but it may be taught from different angles. So a sociologist or a religious studies professor or a philosopher or a political scientist might teach the course. So those are the 3 foundations.
And if I might add, I've taken philosophy of feminism, I believe that's what it's. Yes, and I've also taken women and genders, intro to women and gender studies, and I think it might depending on like how the professor specifically gathers, readings or texts or whatever assignments for their syllabus. But in general, I would say that the classes always take a very intersectional approach in discussing how race, class, sometimes age, nationality, and other factors, including like economy and politics and history, even in those, women and genders focused or philosophy focused classes. And so that is, again, what drew me to the major, definitely. But it'll also open your eyes to what other classes in the department can show you. I remember I also took Anthropology of Gender last semester, and I was not expecting the course to focus specifically on a few groups of people and really focus in on the intricacies of their culture and their history, but at the same time, apply those stereotypes or gender roles and norms or the language that is used to talk about gender or categorize gender to larger scale, like the entire world or just different countries, and so that has been very interesting for sure.
So after you take the foundation courses, and again, I must point out that you don't do, most classes are not sequential. So, but typically students take lower level classes first and then upper level classes. So then you take a methods course because one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit more about is that your final requirement is a capstone. And a capstone means that you're going to do research with a professor, either write a paper or you are going to put together a portfolio of articles. I mean, it really depends on your interest. Say you are interested in gender and journalism. And actually, one of our students did that recently, so which is why I use that example. Then you would be putting together a series of articles into a portfolio where you can then use that as your primary contribution, your original contribution to our knowledge in that field. We have had students who have done art projects focused on gender, and they that can be your final. I mean, if you're an art student and you want to do that, that can be your final project. That can be the capstone. Most students do research papers. So these are, to give you some examples, last year, one student wrote on maternal leaves in different developed countries, how they vary, where does the US fall in terms of maternal leaves in with respect to other countries in Europe or Japan, Australia. So that was her focus. Another student wrote on the way women are depicted during war. So these are the capstones that people write. Again, there's a lot of information on recent capstones that students have written on our website. Just to give you a sampling of what kind of capstones they do. And to prepare you for that, we require that you do a methods course. And that methods course can be from any department. It can be from history to English to political science to psychology. It helps you to get prepared in how to write and how to do original research. And that's one part that our students say that they enjoy the most, because they work with the faculty member one-on-one very closely. They write on something that they're really passionate about, they're very interested in. And it's kind of it is what we call it. It's the capstone of your career. It's what you take from everything that you've learned and you put it together. So whenever I talk to our alumni, they say that, oh, the final semester was really, really exciting. You don't have to do that in the final semester, but usually people do it in their final semester. The other thing that we have students do, and this is a flagship event for women's and gender studies, is that in the spring we have a research symposium where students present that research that they're doing, and we have prizes. We professors come, other students come, and again, it's a great experience that students remember even after they've left Mary Washington. They remember for a long time that experience of feeling that other people are paying attention to what I have to say. I think that's a pretty neat part of the program. So again, I'll stop myself from talking, but please type up your questions or unmute yourself and say it loud, whichever way you prefer. And you don't have to ask about the major. You can talk about Mary Washington. You can talk about what it is to be a student here, all kinds of other things. And if you have questions about not just the major, but about gen ed or other part of the curriculum, we're happy to address some of that. Okay, when do you have to declare the major by? You typically wait till you complete 28 units. So you can declare it after the end of the first year. Typically, students um, declare their major either at the end of their first year, sometime during their sophomore year. Some students, depending on how prepared they feel, they sometimes wait a little bit longer, but mostly these days I see that students declare their major at the end of their freshman year, but definitely by the end of their sophomore year. There's could you minor in women's and gender studies? No, unfortunately not. We only have a major, we don't have a minor.
But you can double major with women and gender studies and something else. And although it's not the program that I've chosen to do, I haven't chosen to double major. It's surprisingly easy because of that interdisciplinary approach. And so I know that for my minor, for example, which is social justice, I was very quickly able to fill up my minor, and within like one semester of declaring it, after the semester I will be done with it. And so if you are not yet completely sure, you do have a few years before you, like a year or so, you have until the end of your sophomore year or further to declare your major. But it definitely is very approachable to double major in something, especially if it's going to be another social science like anthropology, psychology, even sociology, but English as well. But even classes like communications or business, there are those classes that count for both programs, just because women gender studies is so interdisciplinary. So
yeah, and actually, even I mean, you're right. Most of our students do double major in with another social science or humanities, but we do have, actually currently we have a biology and women's and gender studies double major. We've had some of them in the past as well. So even in the sciences, you can actually do double major very, very easily. One other thing that is kind of interesting, and this is new as well, and I'm just saying this out loud in the hope that by the time we are in spring of 2022, this will be a reality. We actually have a women's and gender studies focused study abroad, faculty-led study abroad program. Unfortunately, this year that has not happened, but once we are all hoping that we're going to get back into normal routine definitely by spring of 2022. Professor Bowen brings students to Guatemala, and students they spend a week there, learn about the work that is being done by a conservation focused non-governmental organization, and most of the work that they do is also focused on gender. So it gives you a range of perspectives on the work that is being done there. So another feature of the program that I might say, I mean, UMW has a lot of opportunities for study abroad. This one is specific to our program. That doesn't mean that you cannot do other programs. You can go and do, if you're interested in studying abroad, and I hope all of you are going to be able to, if you're interested in it. I hope we are all going to be able to start traveling again very soon. But that is something to keep in mind as well, that again, you can do it very easily, and you can build it into your curriculum without losing time and graduating on time and doing everything else that you were planning on doing. Okay, excellent question. How does so I talked about students making their capstone project an art piece. How does the requirements change for an art project rather than researching with a professor? When you're doing an art project, you're still working with a faculty member. We have a number of faculty members in the art department that are also affiliated to the Women's and Gender Studies program. And so you will be working with them to figure out what kind of expressive angle you would like to take in shaping your project. So this is between, I mean, if you have a conception of what you want to do, you will definitely have a mentor who will walk you through the process. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were thinking? The other requirements remain the same. The course requirements remain the same because so there are some art classes that are part of our electives. There's a historic preservation class and an art history class that double up as methods courses for the major. So if you came in and you knew that you wanted to focus on the art part of this, then you would take your methods class accordingly. You would take your electives accordingly, and your advisor is going to make sure that you're on the right track. The overall requirements remain the same. It's the details of the requirement that you can then customize it to your own interest that changes a little bit. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, we do. We don't have, I don't know whether we have male students in the major, but we actually have a larger number of male students in our classes these days. And I often comment on it because I teach a class called Gender and Development, and I'm teaching it this semester. And we have 3 men in the class. When I first taught it in 2015, we had 1 male student, and I think he eventually dropped the class. When I taught it a second and a third time, the third time we had 4 men in the class, and this year we have 3 men in the class. So yeah, I think the interest and interest is definitely increasing, and awareness that this is something that they need to know about is increasing as well.
I also think another cool thing about the major is that there are quite a few non-binary students or trans students in the major, or at least who take classes within the major. So just getting more diverse perspectives in your classes is always awesome. And definitely hearing the male perspectives in a women's focused class is definitely very enriching. So,
can you double major in anything you want? Yes, pretty much. At Mary Washington, you can actually double major. I mean, give me a combination and I'll tell you if you cannot double major in it. I think pretty much anything that you want to double major in.
I know that through I don't know if any of you guys have access to this yet as new students, but through like our banner, which is a service that allows us to look at possible trajectories for our degrees or exploring different majors and some of the classes that we may be able to take. You can combine different things and see again like what classes you might be able to take. So for example, if you wanted to do chemistry and women and gender studies, like for you the most conflicting thing or the biggest thing to factor in wouldn't be like how accessible or possible or having somebody sign off the requirements. It's how difficult chemistry is in my opinion, or even just like the time it may take to get through both requirements. But realistically, because the major is so interdisciplinary, you will definitely be able to get all of your requirements done in the time that you need to take to do it. So
Yeah, you would be able to graduate in 4 years and do a double major at Mary Washington, pretty much. And especially with, even if you were doing, like, chemistry is a good example. Chemistry, biology are good examples because there are overlaps in terms of gen ed, but there are no overlaps in terms of major classes. But because of the overlaps in gen ed, you can actually do both of them and graduate on time. And if you're doing a social science major along with women's gender and sexuality, or you're doing a humanities major along with women's gender and sexuality, that's actually, that's very easy to fit in. You could even do two majors and a minor with that. I mean, not that I'm going to insist that anyone does that, overloads themselves that much, but if you want to, it's a possibility. It's not completely beyond the pale to be able to do that, because up to 9 credits can be overlaps between two majors. So that gives you quite a bit of flexibility.
And I think another cool thing about that is, again, talking about that interdisciplinary nature of the program, it allows you to take, for example, like if you wanted to do English as your double major with women and gender and sexuality studies, you could be taking mainly or primarily English electives for your women and genders and sexuality electives, and still get to focus on getting your English requirements done, but thoroughly enjoying the coursework you're taking because you don't feel like you have to compromise. You're able to enjoy both of those subjects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I will encourage you to ask questions, particularly to Josephine, because I wouldn't be able to answer them, but anything that you want to know about coming to Mary Washington, being a student at Mary Washington. But let me see. Okay, how many total students major in in women's gender and sexuality studies? Currently we have 22 majors. Now these are spread over 4 years, so not all of them are, freshman or sophomore or junior or senior. They're spread over the 4 years. Typically, class sizes would be, I think the introduction to women's and gender studies would be about 25-ish. Josephine, do you remember how big it was? I think it's about 20 to 25 students in that class, and then your upper division elective courses tend to be smaller, depending on if you are doing like a writing intensive class or a speaking intensive class, which are university requirements. Then your classes are capped at about 16, 17. And some classes can be, as small as 12, 10 to 12, but not much smaller than that. That's sort of the range. Some introductory courses might be a little bit larger, but not the women's and gender studies introductory courses. Those remain small because we don't have double sections in them. They are all single section classes, and they're fairly small and sort of more intimate, I would say.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it might be because there's the element of discussion in a lot of those classes that professors have built into their syllabus. But also, I think in general, UMW just has smaller class sizes. And so you really won't be in a class with like 75 students or 100 students unless you're taking like social issues, which I'm pretty sure they only offer like 1 or 2 sections per semester. And it's very popular because it spans a few departments, or like a business class or econ class, but those are usually like the foundational courses for those programs as well. So
yeah, those can be a bit bigger. So theoretically, you could, thank you, Josephine, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's another question here. So theoretically, you could double major in acting and women's gender and sexuality studies? Absolutely. There's no reason not to be able to do that. The curriculum allows you plenty of room to do that and graduate in 4 years.
Definitely. I know for, I shouldn't say for a fact because the curriculum is always changing like going semester to semester, but I even took a theater elective because acting is the theater department, but I took a theater elective my second semester here at UMW, and I'm not an acting major, minor, or anything like that. So it's definitely possible, definitely feasible. And again, I just want to plug the banner interface that we will have, that you will have access to if you come to the university. It really will be your friend to theoretically process if you want to pursue this major, theoretically process if you want to do a double major, if you want to focus on a specific department. Like I said, looking, seeing all the English courses that you could possibly take if that's where you want to go, or specifically to your question, take all the theater classes that would overlap for the major if you would like to do that. It's definitely possible. And you can always ask as well when you're at the university and like planning and advising with your advisor.
Yes, this is something that you would, I mean, the planning part of it, yes, you can do it on Banner, but you would also kind of sit down with your advisor and do it with them. And, you'll have an advisor in each of your majors, and you can work with your advisors to structure your program, kind of see right at the beginning what the 4 years are going to look like. Do you want to talk about the club? There's a women's and gender studies club at Mary Washington.
Sure. I mean, personally, I haven't been going to meetings just because of Zoom fatigue for sure. And I've been really overwhelmed with my class workload, but that's the fun of 18 credits. But yes, there is a women and gender studies. I don't know if they're going to rename it women and gender and sexualities.
Yeah, but talk to them about it. Yeah, I just sent that email yesterday to all of you that the name has changed.
I'll check then. But yes, there is a club. I don't know exactly when they meet, but if you would like to be in that club, like it's definitely not something that would be too time consuming, especially in your first 2 years at UMW. From what I experienced, we were still on campus when I was kind of going to meetings a little bit more regularly. It was mainly discussion based or rooted in what we could do within the major, around campus, within the community, different opportunities in terms of internships or other organizations we could get involved with volunteering or something like that. And so there is definitely a club. And if you would like to meet other people in the major, other people who are affiliated with the major in some way, because I feel like non-major students would go, or I definitely knew there were students who hadn't declared women and gender studies yet who were going to meetings. So especially if you're on the fence, it would be a great place to talk to students who have declared and are loving the major. So
you're absolutely right. Their membership is much larger than the actual major, because Sarah Parker, who used to be our student aide, and she's now a graduating senior this year. She's the president of the Women's and Gender Studies Club. She had a mailing list that was much longer than mine. So I'm happy to say that you will actually meet a lot of students who are non-majors, but are interested in the major or interested in the issues that the major addresses. They help, the club helps the program to, especially for these kinds of events like admissions events. They also actually put up some events with, they help sort of host some events. They did it much more before COVID hit and everyone went online and kind of, everyone was hit with Zoom fatigue and all the rest of it. But yes, in short, yes, we do have a club, and it's fairly active.
And another cool thing about UMW in general is a lot of the clubs are student created and student led. And so if they're not specifically departmental organizations, but you will find clubs if your focus, if women and gender studies, like the club itself, is not giving you as much reach as you want. There are definitely clubs that do discuss or touch specifically on sexuality and diverse sexuality, or specific like women of color issues, or political issues, for like gendered political issues and things like that. And so even if women and gender studies, the club itself is, you know, great and enjoyable, but you still would like to keep casting your net, UMW has a lot of different clubs. And if you don't love what you're engaging in already, you can always create another club. And so that's also something, a great opportunity that UMW gives students. So.
And if I might add to that, yes, for example, just as Josephine said, there's PRISM, which is very active, actually. PRISM brings a lot of speakers and does a lot of events. And that sort of covers the whole sexuality, you know, the entire spectrum of people from different sexual identities, and people, you know, non-binary individuals, etc. And if you start counting, maybe, you know, that can be one of the things that you do, Josephine, this semester. We can put up a slide of all the different clubs that have a relationship with women's and gender studies and sexuality studies. There are actually, I mean, the WGST club, you'll find it on our website. That's sort of the department related club, but there are many other clubs that are interested in some of the same issues, but are not. And when we have events, we reach out to all of them. So if you are part of any one of them, you'll find out what's going on. So that's one of the pluses as well.
Definitely.
Josephine, did you do an internship, or did you study abroad yourself?
No, I have not technically done an internship, but I am the student aide for the Women and Gender Studies department currently. And I guess one thing that I have done at UMW, I created my own club. I created a natural hair club on our campus, and that has been very challenging, if I'm if I'm being honest, with, you know, my full-time course load. And I'm also an RA on campus. And so I haven't technically, I don't really have time for an internship right now. But if I do get time on like one of those mental health days that are coming up in the next few weeks, I was hoping and planning to do a little bit of internship research. When do I sleep? Great question. I was hoping to do a little bit of internship research then. I know that it would be a little bit too late for a spring or summer internship probably, but hopefully towards like a fall or even spring 2022 internship, just because again, I don't have that much time in my schedule. But to Beth's question, I try to go to sleep at 10 o'clock. I know that sounds crazy for a college student, and I've really only been doing it for the past 3 weeks, to be honest. But I find that, especially like as I get older, I know this probably doesn't sound great coming from a 21-year-old, but as I get older, like I find that I can't focus when I don't sleep well. And with all the things that I'm doing, if I don't wake up early, then I won't get them done, because I know that at 11 o'clock, my brain shuts down. Like I can't read at 11 o'clock the same way I can read at 7 or 8 a.m. And so I've just kind of shifted my day a little bit earlier, and I do my very best. Last night I went to sleep at midnight. So it's not a perfect world or anything like that. But I think that's another thing that has been great about UMW, to be honest. I feel like it's a privilege that am able to have my own bedroom as an RA. It's a privilege that I've been able to, in my senior year, only have one class on Friday that doesn't even meet in person. And so I've structured my days very specifically and very intentionally. And I think that I'm very lucky to have this opportunity. And I think it's genuinely because of the major, because I know that although as I am, furthering in my degree, and the types of classes that I'm taking are becoming a little bit more exclusive, them being higher level and things like that. I still know that they are being offered at times that work for me and my schedule. I know that I'm able to prioritize and learn about my mental health, not only with the resources that we have at the university, like the Tally Center, and just the amazing staff that we have that are willing to reach out and ask if we are okay. Like, I can't tell you how many staff members have acted as like, sort of mentors that acted in a therapist role for a short amount of time, or acted in the interest of my well-being, and that has been amazing. So I do my very best to sleep early and sleep whenever I can, as well. If I notice that it's Friday and I have an assignment due at 5, I'll try to get it done at 1 and take a nap and then get back to my essay that's due at midnight. So, but yeah.
With that actually varies quite a bit. There are professors in the different affiliated departments or the affiliated faculty, some of whom are teaching face-to-face, some of whom are teaching hybrid, some of whom are teaching fully online. So it's varied quite a bit. But our plan right now is to go fully face to face in the fall, with some space for hybrid, so that if there are students who are not able to come, they would be able to still attend classes. Thank you for attending, Beth. It was nice talking to you.
If I may add to the classes being online, of course, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening in fall. And as students, professors have mostly been alluding to the classes being face to face, but there hasn't been an official announcement or anything like that. So for us, it's kind of like still a little bit up in the air, if you will, but because we're not in those staff meetings. But I personally have been able to take all my classes online this semester and last semester, even though I'm on campus now. I wasn't on campus last fall, and even being on campus now, the one class that would be face to face, my professor has allowed for the technology for a few students who do not want to come into the classroom to be able to sort of zoom into class. And that has been another amazing privilege, that like the professors at UMW are willing to work with technology and are willing to be flexible and understanding of the different health issues or the different concerns we may have, or whatever it is that may be pulling us to not come in person classes. And that hasn't been an issue pretty much at all. Asking a professor to accommodate for my desire to be taking virtual classes. So if you would like to take all your classes virtually, again, we don't know what's going to happen in fall, but I'm sure that professors would definitely be willing to work with you to see what they can accommodate.
Well, one of the things, I mean, again, when I say that we are going to go back to fall, it's all on the basis of the information we are getting on the vaccine schedule. So no one really knows. And I've been looking at the vaccine dashboards almost every day, because I have older, I have parents who are in their 80s and they need their vaccination and whatnot. In short, I would say that that's the message that is sort of has been given to us, that plan for face-to-face classes, but depending on whether vaccination really happens at the pace that we are anticipating we're going to be in class, or we are going to continue to have kind of a hybrid model of partly in class, partly online, and then some classes where some of the students are in class, some of the students are online. We've I think done a pretty good job of packaging it to suit, as Josephine was talking about, to suit a variety of students' needs. So I think that's gone fairly well. Yes, absolutely. Students do have the ability to study abroad with women's gender and sexuality studies. A number of my students have done that. So if you, again, go and look at some of the profiles that are there on the website, Paige McKinsey, who was actually my advisee. She was a double major in international affairs and women's and gender studies. She went to France for a study abroad program. And then I'm trying to think where there are quite a few students who've taken advantage of the geography class that I was talking about, where they go to Guatemala. There are students who have gone to Latin America. So yeah, I mean, that's very doable. Study abroad, and our major is extreme. It fits in very well.
Yeah, definitely the only thing holding back with the study abroad program is the coronavirus, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible and attainable. And like Dr. Gupta said, different departments will offer it. So even if it's not specifically, coming from your women and gender and sexuality degree or program or department, you can find a study abroad program that will apply to what you want to learn about. Definitely.
Actually, yeah, I mean, students do a number of things. They sometimes take their language courses, or if for example, somebody's interested in languages, they pursue a language beyond what we offer at another campus in a country where that language is spoken. They take the immersion option. They do their, so even if it's not a WGS program, you can actually go and take classes that are women's gender sexuality related, and they will transfer back in as your elective. That happens quite a bit. I mean, that can always be worked into the program. So yeah, I mean, study abroad is very, very doable. The other thing that since we were talking about internships, you actually do get elective credit for doing internships or individual studies at Mary Washington. So if you're doing an internship and it's an academic internship that you're doing under faculty supervision, then you actually get one of your electives fulfilled by doing that. So that's again is an attractive part of the major. Other questions? I know we are kind of almost at the 7 o'clock hour, but if you have questions, I'm happy to stay and answer them. Also, let me just type up in case you didn't write that down, let me type up my email address. If you have questions afterward, you can always write to me, and I'll put my name and Josephine, would you mind making that available as well?
Oh, yes.
So here's mine. If you want to, tomorrow morning you think of something and you thought, oh, I should have asked this when I was at the session, feel free to email me and I'll get back with answers.
And feel free to ask me about things like what dining's like on campus, like how expensive meal plans are, what it's like to be an RA, or what it's like to have multiple jobs while taking 18 credits. if you want to talk and go more in depth, we can definitely have that conversation as well.
Thank you, Josephine. Yeah. Well, we are very excited that you're considering the major, you're considering Mary Washington, you're coming here. So we'll all keep our fingers crossed that by this fall, we're going to actually be able to see each other in person.
I don't know. I was about to type that in the chat. I don't know why. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm still very much exploring, and I actually had planned to, like I said, I don't have a lot of time to think about the future right now just because the present is filled with so many thoughts. But I was actually planning to talk to Dr. Gupta about that. And I know that, like I said, I feel very confident about being able to, if nothing else, market the skills that I've learned. And I've worked, for example, I've worked with the United States Holocaust Museum for 4 years, and I've thought about working there possibly, or at a different museum, even though I didn't, go through the museum studies program, but you could if you wanted to do that. I've thought about going into journalism. I've thought about possibly going to grad school. I don't want to, but I know that that's the reality of the 21st century, to be honest. So I'm definitely still exploring. I'm trying to absorb as much wisdom from my advisor and from my mentors at the university. But I kind of have to take things one day at a time right now. But if you want to have that conversation and how I'm going about like managing the stress that comes with not really knowing for sure what I'm going to be doing after graduation, because that's something that kind of has, to be honest, given me a lot of stress and anxiety throughout my 4 years at UMW, especially or not my 4 years at UMW, but my 4 years of college total. Definitely like when I first transferred at UMW, my question was like, well, what am I doing here? Where am I going? And so I'm definitely still in the process of exploring, but I feel very comfortable because of the different skill sets that I've learned and the different opportunities that I've been given to plan events with different different organizations and different departments, create my own club. So, again, I don't know, but I feel good about wherever it will take me. So that's one thing.
Just to give you one example of something that one of our students did this year, she had an internship this summer working for a nonprofit in Baltimore, where she actually brought their attention to disability issues that they did not have before. She's both a disability advocate and a diverse sexuality advocate. So she combined those and made this NGO take a look at it very seriously, and they've changed the way they do things. So that I think is really influential for a 21, 22-year-old to do already. And then this fall, she has another internship at our CASA, which is the women's shelter that I mentioned earlier. And she's interning, but she's already gotten a job because she's graduating this spring, and they've already offered her a job, which she's going to transition into right off the bat, just after she graduates. So it really depends on, what you want. I mean, when you figure out what you want to do, some students have gone on and done things like, as I said, Peace Corps, and one of our students went to West Africa and stayed there for 3 years of 27 months. That's what the typical Peace Corps commitment is. And figured that she wanted to come back and then go to grad school. So people take different paths to whether they want to go to grad school or want to go right into a job or a specific career. It really depends on what their experiences are in college and also outside, like working for a museum or something else that you've done, or working for a nonprofit or a shelter or a legal office.
All right, if there are no final questions, we can wrap this up and let you get back to your evenings. We appreciate you joining us and listening to them and what they presented on. So if you guys have any questions, seriously, you can put them in the chat. You can email the admissions office, or they put theirs in there as well.
Yeah, and great talking to all of you. Thank you for your questions. And I hope to see you in the fall.
Hopefully face to face.
Hopefully face to face. Bye-bye.